Have you ever dealt with a guy that always seems to know more than you or has to have a story a little bit better than yours? I know you know that guy. We've all met that guy. We're going to talk about somebody kind of like that guy in this episode of the Range Minded Podcast, so stay tuned and enjoy. Welcome back to the Range Minded Podcast. I'm going to have to make some adjustments here. My voice sounds a little weird through my headphones. I don't know if it's going to come across the same way. Anyway, like the teaser said, a long time ago, I worked with this guy. It didn't matter what story you had, what anecdote you were giving. He always seemed to have something very similar, just a little cooler every time. It didn't matter. In fact, one time, the rest of us employees kind of conspired and made up a story that didn't happen. We knew didn't happen, just to see if our theory was correct. And guess what? He did have the same experience, oddly enough, just a little bit cooler, which we know didn't exist because we made that shit up too. Yeah, that's reality. We all know that guy. We've all dealt with that guy. And I kind of wonder if we're almost dealing with that guy right now. This is episode 276, by the way. Welcome back to the Range Minded Podcast. It's me, your host, Steve Zimmerman. I'm totally excited to have you guys here. This episode is going to be in continuation of episode 274 when we talked about Donald Trump. Now, I'm going to overlay and share this survey or whatever you want to call it that I did on my Twitter account. Here, you'll see it. Now, you'll notice that how I worded this questions. In fact, hold on, just a second here. Here, let me just pull this up. It'll make more sense. Okay, check this out. So I recently ran this poll. In fact, it's still going on currently. By the way, I'm recording this episode on the 15th of April, tax day. How awesome is that? And I asked this question with kind of regards of, the episode we talked about Trump and his 2A stance. And I asked, simple question, is Trump a good 2A president? Now, again, this poll is ongoing, so if you want to vote, I can't remember how much longer it's got, but it goes until, I started at April 13th. There's 4 days left as of today, the 15th. If I just read it, I could tell you. But that's what I said. Is Trump a good president? Now you're going to see the first option is yes, the second option is no, and the third option is we will see. You're going to notice the overwhelming or underwhelming answer has been yes. Not a lot of people, at least 13% as the poll currently stands, 13% of people believe that Trump is a good 2A president. The second one is no at 42.6%, and 44.4% is the highest at we will see. Why do I bring this up? Again, this is kind of a continuation on that last episode, a couple episodes ago, talking about Trump. I think it was the Crazy Ex-Girlfriend episode. Now he's kind of just the I'm better than you employee episode, which isn't really the name of this episode. But here's the other thing. Like, I've been asking questions about, Trump, sharing some things that we talked about in that episode where Trump has done more anti-gun actions have happened under Donald Trump's administration than any other president. And I stand by that comment. And just to bring receipts, because I think a lot of folks out there don't believe me, they don't want to believe the things I have to say, I decided we would talk about these things one by one. Is that okay with you guys? There are 5 actions. I think I might have reported 4 in the episode. I can't remember. There's 5. 5 things happened so far within both of his terms as president that are not so gun friendly. And I think we need to spell these out. Don't worry, I'm also going to talk about the good things he did too, because he has done some good things for the Second Amendment. But I don't want those to be the only thing that we see. It's important that we look at everything this guy is doing, because we don't want him feeding us a lot of information that's not quite accurate. I think it's important for us to talk about these, so let's go ahead and jump in and get started with them, shall we? All right, the first, what the heck, Donald moment was in his first term. Okay, so December 2018, right? I think it was October 2017, we had the Las Vegas massacre. Terrible event, right? The biggest mass shooting in United States history. I think there was like 60 people dead and hundreds wounded, right? It was a big deal. Now, we jump to March 2018 under a lot of pressure from anti-gun crazies out there. And honestly, folks within his administration, I truly believe, pressured Donald Trump to say, hey, bump stocks are the culprit here. Allegedly, now I say that very loosely because I do not think the shooter used any kind of bump stock device in the Las Vegas massacre. Different story. We're not going to get into it here, but there's a lot of interesting information out there that's available to look at. What? Anyway, they reported that the Las Vegas shooter used bump stocks as he perpetrated this event. So, with all this pressure, whether it be from Moms Demand Action, honestly, the NRA, they definitely had a big hold on this. Whether you want to believe it or not, they said they kind of encouraged this whole bump stock thing. So by March 2018, Trump says, okay, we're getting rid of bump stocks. You have until December of 2018 to turn them into the ATF, show proof of destruction, or face, big time federal charges, imprisonment, hefty fines, that kind of thing. Some of you might not think bump stocks are a big deal. I said this, I think, in that last episode 274. I don't care about bump stocks. I think they're stupid, but I don't think they should be illegal. If you want to put an accessory on your gun, I think you should be 100% allowed to do so. Even if that's a grenade launcher or a chainsaw bayonet or whatever. I don't think that stuff should be illegal. I think the shooter can make, or the gun owner, rather, is a better way to put it. The gun owner is allowed to decide what accessories he puts on. I don't believe the government has the ability, the wherewithal, or the knowledge to tell me what I can do with my own personal property. In fact, they've shown time and time again, even outside the 2A community, that they don't know anything other than pushing down authority and tyrannical ideas and terrible ideas altogether down our throats. I don't think the government is capable of making rational decisions. Never has been. At least not for my lifetime anyways. Okay, let's talk about what a bump stock is, just kind of real basically. So it's a device. You take, imagine your generic AR-15, right? You take off the adjustable stock off your AR-15 rifle, and you put this bump stock on there. Now, there's a spring inside this particular mechanism, and where the finger goes around the trigger guard, there's kind of this weird shield, not weird, but it's kind of shielding the trigger guard in a way. So as you shoot the rifle, it uses the natural recoil of the round going off, allowing the firearm to slide back into the bump stock, compressing the spring in there. And then as it does that, the shooter's finger stays on this partial shroud around the trigger housing, resets the trigger, and then the spring forces that back, allowing the shooter to press the trigger again. And it allows reset to happen quickly. Now, that does not meet the definition given by the ATF on what a fully automatic is, but they completely ignored all those things that they wrote down and decided to say, yep, bump stocks are now machine guns. They fall under the NFA, and it's on the naughty list. Now, a lot of us in the 2A community, including big organizations, except the NRA, because they're morons, they hated this idea because it's an accessory and it does not convert a legal rifle into a machine gun. It does not. Cannot, by definition. Mind you, the creators of that device had to submit these plans and the patents and everything to the ATF to get approval to sell it in the U.S. market. So the ATF wasn't blindsided by these mechanisms. They approved them at some point, allowing, sales to the public. Kind of the same thing with the arm braces. They were approved until they were sadly thrown into the naughty list as well, which we know that got turned around. Nonetheless, bump stocks under President Trump were made to be bad. No bueno. You can't have them. So there's the first problem, the first anti-2A action under Donald Trump. All right, the number 2 action under Donald Trump was the Fix Nix thing. This was also in March of 2018. Now, again, we kind of talked about what the National Instant Check System is, right? It's a background check system that goes through and make sure anything that might preclude you from owning a gun. If any of you haven't bought a firearm before from a dealer, you have to fill out this thing called a 4473. On that 4473, it goes through a series of questions. Any of those would make you a prohibited person if you answered them the wrong way. The idea of the form and the National Instant Check System is to weed out the prohibited people. Now, that system is only as good as the information put into it. Now, that was a big deal as well to these anti-gun people, saying too many bad people are flying under the radar. Even though their background checks are coming back clean, they're not supposed to have them. They're prohibited people. So what they did with the Fix Nix bill in March of 18, the idea was to allow the reporting process to become easier for agencies to report things to the FBI and then go into the instant check system. Sounds good, right? It seems like something completely benign. Okay, sure. But here's the problem. Any kind of information, even from stuff that may have been taken care of or falsely reported years and years and years ago, could now be put into the National Instant Check System, causing issues for potential buyers, people that didn't do anything wrong. Maybe the names were spelt wrong. Maybe somebody put the wrong information with the wrong name, that kind of thing. That got brought up into the Fix Nix bill, which Trump happily signed, kind of secretly. They pushed it in with a spending bill, like they always do. They pushed it into a spending bill. It got signed. It got passed. Now, people like Gun Owners of America or FBC and people that were paying attention, we all kind of felt like this is BS. This is a problem, because if somebody false reports you and that gets put in there, that keeps an innocent person who is not prohibited from buying a firearm, or at the very minimum being delayed. And a right delayed is a right denied. So Fix Nix, big issue. It later got kind of flushed out a little bit. Nonetheless, that was the second thing under Trump that I would consider anti-gun. All right, you want to talk about the number 3 thing that Trump did, at least things that anti-gun things that happened under his watch? Well, let's jump to the Supreme Court system, shall we? Yeah, I know it's the Supreme Court. It's not Donald Trump, but the DOJ could have fixed some of these things before it got that far. This is in 2019. The court case was, I have to read it because I can't really remember how to say this guy's name, is Guedes, Guedes, Guedes versus the ATF. This was tied into the bump stock ban, okay? It was a challenge to the bump stock ban. Now, again, the DOJ had the ability to pull back, to change some things, maybe even to completely reverse what their findings were, or encourage Congress to do so, or at least the president. But guess what? Nothing happened. The DOJ dropped the ball and sided with the anti-gun side and not the gun owners in the United States, and not what I feel, at least they didn't side with the Constitution and our Bill of Rights. It's kind of messed up. Again, now that's the third one. If you're keeping tally, that's number 3, Guedes versus the ATF. In reality, we wanted Trump to jump in on this. We wanted some kind of reprieve, some kind of help towards somebody that we felt was pro-America, pro-freedom. We really need to understand that Trump was a big city Democrat. If not anything, at least a big city Republican with Democrat leanings. So we shouldn't be surprised when he does stuff like this. We really should understand that we're going to get the shaft some way or the other. We're really disappointed that Trump didn't step in or have his Department of Justice step in and say, okay, let's just drop the case, and we understand that, things need to happen in a better way. Nope, didn't happen. Again, that was the number 3 thing Trump has done or didn't do to help gun owners. All right, the fourth thing that Trump really dropped the ball on was another court case. This was NYSERPA, so the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association, not versus Bruen. No, this is versus New York City. So what happened was the city of New York has said that you were not allowed to travel with your personal property for a New York resident, your licensed handgun. You could not leave the city with it. You couldn't go visit somebody upstate. You couldn't go to your second home, maybe in the Catskills, or I don't even know if they're in New York State, but you know what I'm saying. They weren't allowed to leave with a piece of property that they own because the New York City government said, that's not nice. Now, this went all the way up to the Supreme Court again, and we thought, hey, with Trump's justices, this should be really a home run. So Trump and his DOJ filed a lawsuit against New York City, or they didn't really file, but they came up with a plan to push up against New York City. Now, this could have been something huge. Think Bruen, right? NYSERPA versus Bruen, which happened a few years later. This could have been that amazing. It could have been something that really set the precedent for something like concealed carry reciprocity into other states. Nope. They dropped the ball on this one. As soon as they filed just something over like transportation is really what it ended up being, New York City dropped the case, kind of nullifying the whole purpose of it all, and it just went away. Nothing happened. Trump and the DOJ could have made something huge out of this. But instead, they decided to play the short game and really just push back enough for the city of New York to say, we don't really want to play this game. Again, think Bruen. We could have had something that set real precedent in the future, but no, they didn't do it. So I've put this under the anti-gun or things that happened to him that were not pro-2A because it really wasn't. We didn't win. Even New York City residents didn't win. Even though it doesn't quite fit under the license or the traveling with a licensed handgun rule, think of my buddy Dexter Taylor, who's now serving time in prison over an arbitrary rule that New York City has. I know it's a totally different case, but it gives you an idea of New York City's perspective on firearms ownership and the Second Amendment altogether. They'll let the criminals do whatever they want, but law-abiding citizens, we can't have them owning guns and exercising their rights. That's bad. All right, the number 5 anti-gun thing that happened under Trump's leadership just recently happened. In fact, it was March 26th of this year, 2025, in the Vanderstock, well, not Garland anymore, but Bondi versus Vanderstock thing, which went back to a Biden era rule about ghost guns and parts and that kind of thing, saying that it was not legal for citizens to make firearms in their own homes using parts and like 80% kits that you could buy online. Nope. Those were super scary, and we can't have those. Needless to say, Americans have been making guns in their own homes since before the United States existed. It has been something that's been ingrained in the American ethos from its inception, honestly. Nope. Super scary. We can't do anything about it. Now, Pam Bondi and the DOJ under Donald Trump could have just pulled those rules back, especially during, the Donald Trump executive order on anti-2A legislation. This happened before this case even got to this, not necessarily got to the Supreme Court, but before the ruling was handed down. The Department of Justice could have stepped in and made some changes, but they didn't. They didn't do it. Trump didn't even swing at the ball. Instead, they dropped it. Not making any good changes, right? It was a 7-2 decision. It turns out that, who was it? Alito and, Thomas and Alito, they were the only two that, dissented. All the rest, all the rest. There's a couple of Trump appointees mixed in there. Voted to uphold the Biden rule and make ghost guns scary and illegal. Now, there are already rules on the books about unlicensed dealers and the fines and the restrictions on unlicensed dealers. Those laws already exist. Laws, not rules. Laws already exist. Punishing those people that are breaking the law to the fullest extent of the law would make more sense. But no, let's just put more infringements on the people that are abiding by the law, that just want to build and assemble guns for themselves in their own homes. No, we can't do that. To me, that's anti-gun, and that falls under Donald Trump's administration. That's the fifth thing that he did that I would say, or at least happened under his guidance or administration or his rule, whatever you want to say it. That's number 5 on the things that he didn't do to help gun owners. That's a big deal. That's more than any president in the United States history. The most. Are you listening to me? That is the most. Now, I know that a lot of these rules don't have as big as encompassing power as like the Gun Control Act or the NFA. I get that. It's not as encompassing or as huge. But it's still little increments of things that hinder the rights of the people to keep and bear arms. To me, that's a big deal. Again, that's 5 things. And we're just a few months into his first term, or his second term. By the way, talking about that, is he really going to run for a third term? Listen, I voted for Trump every time he ran. I think especially his first term, he was the correct president to be in the office at the time. It would have been a disaster otherwise. And I felt the same on this last election. I voted for him. But he made promises to me and millions of other gun owners in the United States. And I expect those promises to be kept. Donald Trump, I expect you to keep a promise. You say you're a man of your word, so I expect you to do that. What's happening? It's Steve with the Range Minded Podcast, and I'm here to share with you a goal that I have for 2025. Now, I've been doing the podcast now since 2018. That's a long time. But it's been kind of a lull as far as people actually subscribing to the show. So I set a goal for this year to hit 1,000 subscribers on each of my YouTube and my Rumble channel. Now, a lot of you people already follow me on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook or even TikTok. But very few of you guys actually follow me on where you can watch the show. So do me a favor. As soon as this video is over, jump over to the YouTube channel, jump over to the Rumble channel and hit subscribe. That would mean the world to me. It may not be much to you, but it is a lot to me. Help me achieve my goal of 1,000 subs this year, and all your wildest dreams will come true. There might be some kind of a disclaimer after that, but you get the point. Anyways, thanks guys. Take somebody shooting, and as always, stay range-minded. See ya. Now, I would be remiss. It would be really unfair to me not to put in the things that Trump has done, Freudian slip, things that he has done that are actually pro-Second Amendment. And there are a few things that he has done that have helped bolster the Second Amendment community, which is kind of a weird dichotomy if you think about it, because on one hand here, on my left hand, because I think they're crappy, not saying left-handers are crappy, never mind. On one hand, he's got these blatant infringements on the Second Amendment that have happened under his administrations. But then he's also got some things that have helped the Second Amendment. And here's the first one. So in 2017, he appointed, Gorsuch to the Supreme Court. So 2017. 2018, we got Kavanaugh. And then 2020, we got Barrett. Now, I wouldn't say that these three are hardcore two-way supporters, right? Because we just talked about the whole the ghost gun thing, right? But these guys did help us get Bruen, which was a big deal. That is a major win, and that's going to be one of those things we talk about. So in theory, he appointed judges that should bolster the Second Amendment and open up those 2A rights, yet I have yet to see anything happen in this second term of his. So even though I'm putting this kind of under a pro 2A category, it's still kind of milquetoast. It is what it is. Okay, so the number two good thing that happened for us gun owners is in 2017, Trump fixed the fugitive from justice thing that was in the NICS background check system. So what it was any fugitive from justice would get flagged on their background check. Now, this might sound like, yeah, that should be what it is. But the problem was that it included things like traffic tickets or things that maybe people didn't even realize they had issues, and it was flagging them on their gun purchases. Things that shouldn't have flagged them. They weren't violent criminals. They were people that maybe forgot a court date or something like that. So Trump fixed this to have the words, or they fixed the verbiage saying, let's see, what did they say? The new rule said you're only a fugitive if you fled a state to dodge prosecution with charges imminent. So big change as far as the verbiage meant, and also a pretty big change for people trying to buy firearms that didn't know they had something going on. Now, anti-gunners really freaked out about this one. They're saying, well, it's going to let these dangerous people through and they're going to have all these guns and bad things are going to happen. But really what it was fixing clerical errors. Not criminals, not fugitives from justice, just people that didn't have any violent things on their record that didn't need to be there. Now, I don't have any hard numbers on this. I don't know exactly how many background checks, were, denied because of this. But there were, I don't know, a lot of people that they fixed. I think it was 1,000. Let's see. Yeah, the ATF said they cleared thousands of wrongful denials off the system. Thousands. So it was kind of this dragnet that was pulling people in that didn't belong in there. So, yeah, it wasn't a huge thing. It was kind of quiet and under the radar, but it definitely helped make sure legal gun ownership was maintained and not, like I said, dragnetting these people that didn't belong in the system that shouldn't have been denied. So I guess that's a win. A small one, but it's a win. Also, the same year, 2017, Trump signed something called House Joint Resolution 40. Now, what this did was took people off, people that were off on the NICS system that they were accepting benefits from like Social Security. Now, Obama said that, hey, if you're getting funding from Social Security, you're mentally deficient and you shouldn't own a firearm. Now, Trump fixed this with this joint resolution that he signed. And these are not like violent, wacky, like people that have completely lost their mind. Think of people that have like mild anxiety or something like that may just have trouble doing simple math or something like that. Maybe that's an extreme, but not people that should lose their rights without due process. And that's the real problem. It was a whole due process issue. It wasn't the fact that these people may be mentally deficient. Just because you accept Social Security doesn't mean you lose all your other rights. That's not fair. So Trump signed that joint resolution and fixed that. Now, a lot of us on the Pro 2A gun side, we were excited. We were happy to see the people that shouldn't have been denied had their rights restored. Yet, obviously, people like Guntown and the other fanatical mommies out there, they hated this. They thought there was going to be thousands of loonies walking around with guns. That didn't happen. Listen, due process matters. Due process is part of our rights. It's something that needs to happen. And just eviscerating that for around 75,000 people is what they figured this helped. That's a lot of people that were denied or potentially denied their right for self-defense within the 2A realm. That's a lot of people. That's a big deal. So, okay, there's another win for Trump, all right? Let's be real. Now let's jump to 2020. I don't know if you guys remember, there was a couple things that happened and a lot of things that didn't happen in 2020. So this is can I say now on YouTube? This was during the whole pandemic problem where a lot of things were being shut down. You couldn't go to the grocery store. You couldn't go to church. You could go to a strip club, I guess, if you lived in California. But you couldn't do a lot of these other things. Now, Trump, thankfully, he said that 2A related businesses, whether that be gun shops and ranges, that kind of thing, they were designated as essential and able to remain open. Now, that is another win in Trump's book, I would say. People's right to defend themselves doesn't stop during some kind of a pandemic. It can't. In fact, that's probably a bigger time to allow people to exercise their right, because there are more crazies that are locked up in their homes and wanting to do crazy things and going out in the community and causing harm. So, yeah, that's another good two-way thing that happened for Trump. And thank you, Donald, for allowing people in the industry that I love and worked in the ability to stay functional and open. And I do agree, we are essential. It's part of our, enumerated rights. The right to keep and bear arms. That's essential. Here's the other thing when it comes to pandemic buying. There were, let's see, what did it say? 39.7 million background checks in 2020. That's a lot. That's good. More and more people came into the 2A family during the pandemic times than any other. In fact, I think we've seen a lot more since then, thankfully, or because of, I shouldn't say thankfully, because to me it was stupid. More people have come into the 2A family because they realize that the government isn't here to help. Cops aren't going to be able to help you. You have to be your own immediate responder. So people starting to see and understand the importance of the Second Amendment and the ability to defend yourself, your property, and your loved one. Obviously, the anti-gun groups really didn't like the idea of having 2A-related businesses designated as essential. They didn't like that idea. They thought it was going to cause more problems. I think it actually held back more problems than the potential causation, right? I guess that doesn't make any sense, but I think you know what I mean. So, yeah, again, it's kind of a pro thing for Trump here. Now, another thing that Trump did was a benefit was in 2019, he pulled us out of the UN Arms Trade Treaty. I had to look at it again because I couldn't remember what it was called. So in 2019, before that, we signed some stupid agreement that would regulate things like tanks and jets and other arms, including guns. It was an international agreement. Now, folks on the pro 2A side were saying, hey, this could really open the door for international gun control within the United States, which I believe it would have. And screw the UN anyways. Anyway, they had some meeting. Trump was there, and he said, guess what? We're taking our signature back. This is really a threat to our American sovereignty and the American people's rights. I agree, 100%. Is this a big deal? I don't know. Congress never really ratified it, so take that as whatever you want to say it as. But it was kind of a bolster to the 2A community saying, hey, maybe Trump actually does care about us, even though things have happened since then or during his administration that still make us wonder. But any time that we can give the big middle finger to the stupid blue helmets, I'm all for it. The UN has no place telling me or you what we can do with our firearms. So screw you, UN. I'm happy that Trump did that. Stay out of my country. All right, the number 6 thing done. If you haven't been keeping tally, this is the 6th pro-gun thing that Trump has done during his administration. And this happened actually just a couple months ago, right? Trump signed an executive order to requiring the Department of Justice, Pam Bondi, to go through all Biden-era gun control bills and things that he'd signed, whether they executive orders or gun control, anything that would be infringing on our Second Amendment rights. Now, he gave Bondi a 30-day deadline, which she ended up having to file an extension. Now, it didn't say that was going to be made public if it just was something that he wanted presented to him in that time restraint. So he may have got a bunch of stuff. We don't know. We haven't seen anything. I don't know how I feel about that. Whatever. Let's make sure that we're being completely transparent with the public, Department of Justice and President Trump. So with that, the idea was to look again at anything Biden era. Think of the ghost gun rule, which we already talked about, and we saw how that played out. Thank you, Pam Bondi. You were so amazing at it. But then things like arm braces and red flag laws and that kind of stuff that Biden was trying to push. Think of the Safer Communities Act, that kind of stuff. Now, will this actually do anything? I don't know. Again, we haven't heard anything about how this is going. They completely didn't do anything with the ghost gun rule, which is stupid. So far, the track record on this executive order isn't going that great, but we'll see. I guess we'll have to see. I just don't want lip service. I just don't want some stupid carrot dangled in front of me, promise me all this stuff. I want to see results. And I imagine a lot of you guys in the Pro 2A side of the world want to see good results, things fortified and cemented in for us to keep and retain our Second Amendment rights. So there's the sixth thing, I guess you could say, that is pro-gun, but it really hasn't, fruited anything amazing. So I guess take that any way you want. But in reality, in the long run, all the pro-gun things that he has done really don't equal out the things that he has done negatively to affect our Second Amendment rights, in my opinion. Is he going to be the greatest 2A president we have ever seen? Is he going to keep the promises that he made to us when he got elected for that second term? Remember, he said something like within the first week, he was going to make these huge changes to the Second Amendment. We really didn't see anything. Also, the whole ATF thing, right? We were so excited when Kash Patel was going to be thrown in as the FBI director. He made all sorts of promises on things that didn't happen with the FBI. But then when we saw him, hey, he's going to be watching over the ATF temporarily, that was kind of a cool thing because he spoke at goals. He's shared all these Pro 2A sentiments. Awesome sauce, right? No, it sounds like it might have just been lip service because we haven't seen anything. Then we get a new ATF director, which they pulled out of the Army or something department. I should know. I should say, well, I don't know. Let's be honest. I'm frustrated right now. I can't think of what he was. Something in the military side of things. He was made director of the ATF, and then they just brought in this new clown that's going to be the assistant director to the ATF, which is really just, the dude's just part of the system. I'm not very excited about him. This is nothing promising coming out of this administration to help gun owners. We'll see. We'll see. Like that poll I showed you in the beginning of the show, I kind of feel the same way. I don't think he is a pro-gun president, but I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. What do you guys think? What did I miss? Did I not share the information that you wanted to hear? Do you think I'm pulling the wool over your eyes? Do you think I'm right? I really want to carry on this conversation in the comment section of these videos. I want to hear what you guys have to say. I think it's important for us to have this dialogue. I think it's important for all of us to see who we have hired to be the mouthpiece and to run this government. Remember, it is we the people. It's not them, the Senate. It's not them, the House. It's we the people. We are in charge, and we expect those people that we elect or that we hire to do what they need to do for us. It's up to us to make these things happen. We see what happens when we give them complete free reign. It goes to crap. Like, it's a cesspool in Washington. It's not a very good place when it comes to morals. And unfortunately, that gets pushed through the system of politics as well. It's gross. It's disgusting. And we really need to work on fixing that. So there's that, I guess. My goal, my hope is to always be completely upfront and honest with you guys. I love the Second Amendment. I love this country. There's no other place I'd want to live. I've lived in other countries, and America is by far, the United States is by far the greatest country on earth, in my opinion. Yep, we're not free from a kind of flaws. We've made lots of mistakes, but I think we've overcome those mistakes, and we are far better than any other country in the world, in my honest opinion. Because I want to be honest with you guys, I want you to know that I care about you. I care about your rights. I think that rights are essential for our republic, for our freedoms. We don't live in a democracy. We live in a republic, a representative government. The point is to bring good people to be our mouthpieces, and it's up to us to fix the mess. We can't expect them to fix their own messes because they're worse than petulant children that never clean up their rooms. They continue to make bigger messes and then tell us they're going to fix things and make it better. Almost like we want them to do something, but they'll tell us how much better they have it and how much better they can make it because they're the employee or the coworker that always has a better story and a better way to sell their life than what we know. They always know better, don't they? No, they don't. Listen, if you liked this content, if you liked this video, if you want to help me out, that would be greatly appreciated. The easiest way to help me out is to like this video, to share this video, and to subscribe to the podcast. And honestly, if you could subscribe everywhere, that would be great. Obviously, we're on Spotify, we're on YouTube, we're on Rumble, pretty much anywhere you get your podcasts, I'm there, whether it be audio or video. I really love doing this. I enjoy sharing my perspective and my point of view and my passion for the Second Amendment to you guys. It's something I really do care about. The other way you can help support is you can jump on the website. There you can purchase patches. Eventually I'll put targets on there. I don't know how well they're going to sell, but we'll see. I want to make sure that I can continue to produce this content for you. Another thing I just did today, and listen, I don't have advertisers. I don't have ways for other streams of income to come in. That's just the way my show works. So I did set up a Give, Send, Go. I'll link that below. I would appreciate if you can help. You don't have to help. I'm not begging for your money. I wouldn't mind you guys coming back and hanging out and watching more episodes, because that does mean a lot to me. I'm not monetized or anything like that. So this is really just coming out of my own pocket. So sometimes it's tough to, want to do this. That's just the reality of it, because I'm not getting paid to do it. Not that I need to get paid. I don't know. I don't even know. Am I digging a hole? I think you guys know what I mean. If I could just get the show to pay for the internet, that would be fabulous. And again, the ways that you can help me do that is buying a patch or just liking and sharing and subscribing. Honestly, that helps a lot. It gets my voice out there. You can also find me on the social media. You can jump on X, at Range Minded on X, Range Minded Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. I'm always on there doing something stupid. I've been spending a lot more time on X than anywhere else. So chances are, if you want to jump on there, make your voices heard on some of the polls I throw out, or make fun of me and some of the content I push out on X, it's all good. You could totally find me there as well. I think it would be fun. You guys are awesome. Your time means a lot to me, because it's something you'll never get back. And I totally appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Just remember, your rights really are fragile. We are always one election away from losing everything. So make your voices heard. Be participating in the government. Be vocal. Be the squeaky wheel. It's okay. The other way we can keep the Second Amendment alive is by taking people shooting. That is not just a moniker I throw out there. I truly believe it. By taking our friends shooting, by introducing new people into the 2A community, they really get to see what it's really about. That it's not some scary death cult. It's really about personal rights and responsibilities. That's really what it's about. The other thing I need you to do is to stay range-minded. You guys are awesome. Take care. Stay safe. See you guys later.
Tut, 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 tut. Bye-bye.